Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Pop, Investor Relations from Advanced Info Service, or AIS. Thanks for joining in, and thanks the Stock Exchange of Thailand for this opportunity. Today, in terms of agenda, I would like to present three things. One is on what we are doing in terms of the business. Then the second one is on the snapshot of last year's performance. And last one is on the strategy in 2019. So to begin with, just to wrap up of what we are doing right now, AIS is basically what we call ourselves is digital live service provider. We've been leading in the mobile wireless market for the past 28 years, but just 4 years ago, we changed ourselves to expand into fixed broadband as well as the digital service. So right now, in terms of the business itself, we are doing three things. One is the mobile, as I mentioned. Fixed broadband we started 4 years ago, and last one is on the new service and platforms. In terms of mobile, as you can see from the chart on the left-hand side, we right now have around 49% in terms of revenue market share, so we are the leader in the market. There are other two competitors, as you can see, 27% and 24% market share. Revenue breakdown on the left-hand side, right now we have 67% of non-voice revenue, and majority of this pie is from the data that users use on the phones. And voice declined to 30%, and some small revenues from SMS and others for 3%. We have 41 million customers right now. 80% of them are prepaid users, and the rest are postpaid. But with that kind of customer mix, actually prepaid, even though it's 80% in terms of subscribers, it's generating 54% in terms of revenue. And on the other hand, postpaid 20% in sub, but 43% in terms of revenue. So postpaid has been growing around 10% in the past 3-4 years, and being kind of a high value customer for the industry, basically. In terms of, I think the focus of what the wireless business we are doing is that we would like to mark our leadership continuously. We right now have nationwide networks for 4G, 3G, as well as 2G, and we would like to maintain our competitiveness in this market so that we can retain the scale as well as the customer loyalty. And I'll explain later on what we are going to do this year. Fixed broadband, basically, as I mentioned, it's a new business for us. We started the 5th year this year in 2019. So in terms of market share, we show the sub market share. We have 9%. That is roughly around 730,000 subscribers. Another three key players, 41%, 34%, and 16% market share. So we continue to be, right now, the smallest one. But in terms of growth, actually, we are outperforming the market. In terms of the net addition a year that we're gaining today is very comparable and competitive to the competitors as well. In terms of coverage, as you can see, we cover 57 key cities, and that already, passed 7 million homes passed around Thailand. So for fixed broadband, basically we are looking at this business for not only generating new revenue stream, which it is doing right now, but also to be as defensive value to the mobile business as well, which I'll explain later that this year in particular we would like to focus on the fixed mobile content conversion strategy. The last one is digital service and platform. This is basically for medium to long-term growth. For AIS. Mobile, we continue to be the leader, but in terms of growth, 4G, even though it's continued to grow, but the growth rate has been low to mid-single digits, so not that high. Fixed broadband, we are building up quite well, but digital service will be something else that will be able to provide other products and services out of the telecom industry to our customer base, as well as the partners' customer base too. So overall, we are doing both enterprise segment and the consumer segments. As you can see, for enterprise, of course, it's We acquired the company Sales Info last year. That's the biggest portion. And also the IoT one that we also have the alliance that we established last year to expand into this field. On consumer, right now we're doing video and mobile money as well as other platforms just started. So for long term, with kind of these three business structure, we'll be able to become kind of leading digital platform for the Thai people. So that's our 3 to 5 years vision. I move on to the snapshot performance of last year. If you look on the left-hand side in terms of core service revenue, so we grew 3.8% year on year. In terms of composition, mobile remains to be the biggest portion, so around 94%, but the growth was 1.3% year on year. Fixed broadband, as I mentioned, now is already generating as a new revenue stream. So the size is now 4.4 billion for last year and has been growing 42%. And for that others portion, basically we include some enterprise revenues, interconnections revenue, and some equipment rental. So that portion also grew 77%. Key strategic executions that we did last year, apart from acquiring Sales Info to expand in the enterprise market, we also invested in Rapid Line Pay joint venture. So we spent around 800 million to acquire 1/3 of the JV and to be able to offer mobile payment services. Also, we finalized the 2.1 gigahertz agreement with TOT last year. So prior to that, we had also partnered with them on utilizing the 2100. But last year we signed a formal agreement. But on the financial implications net basis, we continue to pay to TOT around 3.9 billion a year for the utilization of the spectrum. We also acquired 1800 megahertz license last year for 5 megahertz and enabling us to be the largest, to be the operator with largest bandwidth in the industry. And we continue to invest. CapEx last year was 20 billion baht in order to expand both mobile and FBB capacities. On the cost side, actually the past 2-3 years, we have been continuously talking about cost optimization program. So last year, if you look at the cost of service on the left-hand side there, reported numbers, you might see a 16% increase, but actually if we were to look at the normalized basis to discard some accounting impact, actually our cost of service grew only 1.6%. So if you see regulatory fee, we continue to have some savings on that, so 6.3 down to 5.7 billion. Network depreciation and amortization of the license continue to grow because we invested last year. The network OpEx itself was quite stable, so 11 billion to 11 billion. And the last one is on the TOT and some other proportions which was impacted by the change in accounting, but on a net basis we pay TOT the same. Right-hand side in terms of SG&A, the total amount grew around 5%, but if you look at the marketing expense alone, it declined around 4%. Admin grew around close to 2 billion. One of the reasons because we had one-time expense regarding the withholding tax, and also we expanded the fixed broadband business, and that implies that we need to have more staff, so staff cost rose. But down to the EBITDA level, our EBITDA, which reflects the operating performance, grew 5% last year. Deducting depreciation, amortization, interest, and tax, our net profit stood at 29.7 billion, so that's a drop of around 1.3%, remained very strong. If you were to compare this net profit against the total profit pile of the industry, actually we're generating around 90%. So that's been very strong. I move to the balance sheet and the cash flow. So last year when we look at net debt to EBITDA, we stand at 1.3 times nowadays. Interest-bearing debt, we have around 109 billion, and return equity remained to be very strong as well, 55%. So if you look on the other hand, cash flow, last year, our operating cash flow, 76 billion, fully covered all repayments and investments as well. So the 76 billion was paid for capex of 20 billion in the investing cash flows, and also 5 billion in terms of acquisition of the CS logs and also the investment in Rapid Line Pay. We also had 20 billion to pay for the spectrum licenses to the NBTC, and another big portion of cash outflow is on the dividend payment. So last year was 22 billion. So overall cash for AIS decreased 1.6 billion last year. Average finance cost at the bottom right, as you can see, remained to be quite low, 3.1% per year. And in terms of credit rating, we maintain triple B plus, and outlook stable for that. I move on to probably guidance for this year before I touch in terms of strategy. So we guide 4 items. Top line on the core service revenue, so we target to grow mid-single digit. That is composed of mobile, fixed broadband, as well as the enterprise. The EBITDA margin, we guide stable from last year, and last year on a reported basis, we were 43.4%. So as you can see, the numbers imply here, we target to grow mid-single digit, but we expect stabilized EBITDA margin. That means there are some elevated costs inside, mainly coming from 2 reasons. One is because of the marketing spending that we are preserving to see how the market plays out throughout the year. The other one is on the OpEx. Even though a lot of parts are being optimized, but because we are expanding fixed broadband and also the enterprise, some portions of the OpEx also will increase this year. CapEx, in terms of the budgeted CapEx, which is what we plan to invest regardless of the cash outflow, and also excluding the spectrum payment, this year is going to be 20 to 25 billion, and 4 to 5 billion out of which will be allocated for fixed broadband. So, which I'll show later on, but in terms of CapEx number for AIS, we believe that in this 4G cycle, it was already peaked in 2016. So in 17 and 18, we've been spending less in terms of the investment. And this year, we target to spend 20 to 25 billion. Dividend policy, we maintain minimum 70% payout ratio in order to preserve financial health and flexibility for the future. All right. So moving on to our expectation in terms of the business outlook for each one. Mobile, as I mentioned, I think because we are the leader in the market, the key for us is to maintain the leadership and also the competitiveness of the business itself. Right now, overall, if you look at the trend of market share, we have been losing market share of around 1% a year. So for us this year, we consider that the scale of the business is very important. In the past 2 years' time, in postpaid segment, we have been very competitive and actually growing quite well in the market. But in prepaid, we continue to see competitors doing handset subsidies to acquire customers. So this year, we'll monitor very closely of how we should react to the market so that we can maintain the scale of the prepaid customers, which continues to be a very large portion for AIS. So in some strategic areas that we see is very important for us to defend, we'll have some kind of campaigns in order to respond to those fronts. Apart from general competition in the postpaid, prepaid, this year in particular, and for the next 3 years' time as well, we would like to enhance our brand more in order to touch the digital population group. In terms of offering as well, we would like to grow or do the segmentations for the segments that are growing, for example, in terms of teenagers, in terms of tourists, as well as the immigrants. So we believe that there's an opportunity for us to grow further. And of course, the network quality is something that we continue to give importance and priority. So this year, in terms of spectrum allocation, we'll be very wise on that and on the network planning as well. Everything that we will invest needs to be taken into account how the capability of 5G and how we will be able to spend the monies with the most effective way. Customer management as well. This year we'll ramp up a lot of points and privileges, as well as adopting digital technology for us to be able to kind of predict customer usage and apply into the business. This is not something about data privacy, but how we will be able to really personalize the offerings to each customer better. So that's the outlook of the mobile business. For fixed broadband, basically this year, as I mentioned earlier, that we would like to do the fixed mobile content conversions. And we're targeting 1 million subscribers by the end of this year. That implies around 270,000 subscribers net addition. And our focus for us is rather looking at the ARPU as before, toward looking at ARPH, or average revenue per household. FMC, what it is, basically, if you look at our latest offerings, you will see that we try to win the homes. So in the homes, there are several members. Some of them might use only internet broadband. Some of them use mobile. Some of them would like to watch entertainment, Korean series, etc. So in terms of the package, we would like to offer everything that the home needs. Right now, for example, the general package 700 baht, customers would get 100 megabits per second of fiber broadband, as well as 10 gigabytes of mobile data, and some premium contents for them to watch for free for 12 months, for example. So we believe with these kind of packages and the leverage on the high value customer base on the mobile, we'll be able to achieve that 1 million target goal. In terms of investment of this business, for the past 4 years, we've been spending only 4 to 5 billion per annum. One is because we're using a large part, the same core networks of the mobile to leverage in order to lay the last mile easier. So actually 70% of the investment on broadband occurs when we acquire new subscribers. So that's for the fiber to home, as well as the customer premise equipment. So yeah, I think that's overall. So 1 million is our target for this year. In terms of digital service, so we divided it into 2 portions. One is consumer and one is enterprise. For consumer, very clear that we are new in this field. So key mission is for AIS to expand subscriber base to use these digital services. So for example, in terms of video, which we've been doing for the past 2-3 years, we have the video platform on both mobile and fixed broadband. Right now, we have 2 million active users. A lot of them are using for free subscription, and not many of them are using the paid subscriptions. So for us to be able to monetize this platform better in the future, we need to add on the active user. So this year in particular, you'll see that apart from the exclusive foreign or international content that we already have, we also collaborate with the kind of content creators in the country as well to provide exclusivity to our customers. And just lately that we also opened the platform for the customers of other operators as well. So we would have more kind of potential customers to be on AIS. On the mobile wallet, which is RLP, Rapid Line Pay, right now we have 1 million active users and around actually 5 million registered users. Similar to the video platform, so we need to make this platform, mobile money platform, to be very engaging. One big advantage for this RP is that the platform itself is embedded in the Line chatting application, which has 40 million users nowadays. So for the job for each partner in the JV, composing of AIS, Line, and BTS, is to strengthen the kind of focus of each player to encourage customers to use the mobile wallet. For example, last year, for AIS in particular, we opened the Rabbit Line Pay platform to be embedded on our My AIS application, so that right now customers on postpaid can pay bills on the Rabbit Line Pay. Customer on prepaid can also top up on the Rabbit Line Pay. For the BTS, as you might have seen end of last year, that right now customers commuting by BTS can top up and pay through the platform as well. So it brings in convenience to the consumers. And this year, the merchant distribution will be expanded, and also some kind of very attractive promotions to encourage customers to hop on. Other things like insurance, we also just started actually last month commercially and officially. So we joined hand with some insurance company like AXA. We have the license to operate this business. So right now, customers of AIS 41 million, if they are interested to buy insurance, if they would like to travel abroad, they can actually buy one from the mobile. On the enterprise, as you can see, if we were to separate our products, that would be three categories. One is on the telco services, comprising of the EDS, which is the data link that connects between branches of the companies, and also the mobile service. In this market, we are the leader. Of course, in mobile, in EDS, there are several players. But for us this year, we believe that we would be able to gain market share more from the enhanced capabilities, especially from CS logs. The other part is on the ICT services. The big one would be cloud, data center, and the ICT solutions. The market in Thailand, in terms of cloud and data center, continue to grow double digit. So for us, with the enhanced capabilities and also more focus, we would at least assume to grow accordingly with the market. And on the digital service, mainly we focus on IoT, cybersecurity, and digital marketing. That's toward a little bit of the long term. The size of the business itself remains to be very small. So the growth would be in some areas triple digit, for example. So overall, for enterprise segment, including airtime and non-airtime, we expect to grow close to 10% this year, and that would translate into the mid-single digit growth of the service revenue as guided as well. So before I explain in other points, I move on to the question first. So the first question is, could you please describe very briefly average clients of digital platform? Who are they? As you can see, for us, we have several platforms here. Video platform, mobile money platform, insurance platform, game platform. For AIS, because we are a telco company, so we have been creating the platforms in order for the partners to come and plug in their services. So we're acting like a central that connect between our subscribers, 41 million users on mobile, and the products and services of the clients. So the clients, in terms of those who pay for us, is of course the consumers. But on the other hand, on the other side, is the partners that will come to join with us. For example, as you can see here, for game, we also partner with Garena. For insurance, as I said, AXA is one of the players that we are working with. So that's the general kind of explanation of what digital platform is. CapEx set aside for the respective business segments. As I mentioned, this year we plan to spend or plan to invest 20 to 25 billion. That's for the consolidated business. 4 to 5 billion of which will be for fixed broadband, and the rest, the biggest one, almost 100%, is allocated for mobile capacity addition. Some few billions is for the enterprise kind of IT and network expansion as well, but the majority continues to be the mobile business. Break-even and payback period for each business. Of course, mobile, we generate EBITDA positive and net profit positive. Most of the EBITDA we have today is from the mobile business. So 43% is from the mobile business in terms of EBITDA margin. For fixed broadband, because we are new, our EBITDA just turned positive, I think, end of 2017, one year ago. And if we can achieve the 1 million target sub by the end of this year, we should see EBIT becoming positive. So that's kind of the milestone. Breakdown of margins in the different business segments. Okay, I touched mobile already. For fixed broadband, different company has different kind of cost structure. So when we look at our competitors who one of them has pure broadband business, another one of them is doing the convergence as what AS is doing. So roughly they are generating around 30% of EBITDA margin. So I think that would be the number when our business is more stabilized, that we target to have that number as well, or maybe better because of the leverage on the existing infrastructure. Any potential to increase the dividend payout? Okay. Prior to 2017, we had been paying 100% of our net profit as dividend. But in 2017 and 18 and now, our policy is to pay not less than 70% of the EPS as dividend. Plan to increase might not be that quick. I think the policy already allows us to pay higher if we already consider the cash flow and strategic executions that we might implement. But for now, I think looking further into the next 3 to 5 years, one is that next year we have a big payment around 63 billion in total for mobile for the spectrum to be paid to the regulator. So that still stands. Actually, we're waiting for more clarity on whether that amount of payment will be deferred to several years. But today is still a big payment of 63 billion to be paid down next year. Another key thing is 5G, which will certainly come to Thailand. Although we don't expect the 5G use cases to be viable very quickly, especially in Thailand, we need to preserve some cash or some capital in order for us to go for whether we would like to acquire more spectrum or how we should invest in 5G. So with those two factors, we believe the dividend payout of 70%, the minimum, is something that we are committing. View on 5G, plan project on 5G, as I mentioned already. 5G globally, the standards in terms of spectrum has been quite clear. I think majority of the global players are talking about utilization of 3.5 gigahertz bandwidth. China might be also using the 2.6 gigahertz. Other than those, the 26 to 28 gigahertz, which is the millimeter wave spectrum, are also considered. And also some portions of the low band like 700 as well. However, for 5G in Thailand, I think the key thing that we need to consider is how 5G will play in terms of use cases. We know quite well and getting more familiar that 5G will be for virtual reality, artificial reality, autonomous driving car, for example, smart home, smart solutions, and etc. But when and at what scale those services will be deployed and on what spectrum band is something that needs to be weighted a little bit. I think for us, 4G continues to be growing, and looking at the demand right now, it's not yet clear whether we would need 5G today. So you might have been hearing that the regulator would like to hold an auction on the 700 megahertz, 700, yes. But for us, pretty clear, and CEO also mentioned that we, of course, are interested in looking at the opportunity, but we need to consider the terms and conditions and as well as the pricing in detail before we can say yes or no for the auction. Potential competitors, 5G also involves the ecosystem of not only the operators, but also the equipment, the handset, the device, application, and the use case. So the scope of 5G will be very broad, and I think it's also crucial for us and for other competitors and players to consider where, in which area in that total chain that they would like to be in. But as I mentioned, overall, it's not certain just yet how 5G will come out as a result. So I elaborate a little bit more in terms of the liabilities we have. On the left-hand side here, we show the spectrum license payable. The 63 billion is due next year, as I mentioned. This year, end of this year, we also have 4 billion to be made to the NBTC. And in 2021, another 3 billion for the last proportion of the 1800, the new one that we just acquired. So the big amount of 63 billion right now is being discussed whether it's going to be cheaper, and we are also waiting for the clarity from the government. Right-hand side, we show the net, the debt repayment schedule. As you can see, this year there will be 17 billion. In 2020, the latest information I have is that we can move some 10 to 15 billion out of that 25 billion to the other later years. So next year, probably that debt would come down to around 10 to 15 billion. But in total, right now, we have around 109 billion of interest-bearing debt. Okay, maybe I touch upon a little bit on the strength of our mobile business in terms of the spectrum portfolio. As you can see here, right now we have 900 megahertz. In total is 2 times 10, which is 20 megahertz. We have 1800, in total is 40 megahertz contiguously. And the last one is 2100. We have in total 30 times 2. Half of which is from the partnership with TOT, and the other half is from the license that we got from the NBTC. In total, right now, we have 120 megahertz, which is the largest in the industry. And in terms of the allocation of spectrum, as you can see, because 4G consumption continues to grow, up to 48 megahertz of the total spectrum or bandwidth is now allocated for 4G, and up to 25 megahertz is for 3G. And only 2 megahertz is allocated for 2G. And I think it's good news that by the end of this October, October, the regulator already announced that Thailand will stop providing 2G. So if nothing's wrong, on the 1st of November, we will no longer have 2G services. And if that comes through, we would be able to reallocate this 2 megahertz on the 900 frequency to do 3G and 4G, and that would come with more effectiveness of the spectrum usage. ไม่มีคำถามแล้ว Okay, I think that's overall. If you have any further questions, 2 ways that you can communicate with us. One is from this QR code. Please go to Line and add us as a friend online, and also to our email at investor@ais.co.th, or just drop us a call with that provided number. So thank you very much and see you next time. Thank you.